Hello and welcome back to Bit of an Animal, your premier rugby union South African podcast here on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel. I'm joined this evening by Jean. Good evening, Jean.
Hi, how are you?
Well, and yourself. Jean, we are a Southern Hemisphere podcast. And the biggest news this past week coming out of the Southern Hemisphere is from the land of the lion, long white cloud, Aotearoa, Scott Razer Robertson got the sack. Your thoughts on the big shakeup in New Zealand?
Yeah, I really don't think anyone saw that one coming. Um, it was a pretty big shock. I got some unconfirmed reports from someone in New Zealand who's got a partial leak of the report about certain things that were said. Um, yeah, I honestly don't know how I should feel about it. But what I can say is, I think it speaks a lot more about the New Zealand Rugby Union than it does Scott Robertson because he's got a 74% win percentage. I mean, we were pretty happy to let Ninober and Erasmus run at 66% in 2021, 2022, building into the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Um, because we understood that there's the goal, there's the ultimate goal of getting to the World Cup with the kind of team that would be unstoppable. I don't know if you're saying this started as a year-end review and it ends with the head coach leaving. I think we need to discuss what a year-end review is as well, because that there might be some misphrasing there, calling it a year-end review, and then you end up losing your head coach. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's so much coming out about this. I do feel sorry I feel sorry for Scott because I think it is a difficult transition going from a club level, even if you are probably one of the most competitive clubs in the world. Um, you know, stepping up to international is just different. Every gesture, every intonation in the word, everything like that gets picked up, gets analyzed. The way you play. If you think that your aerial skills are okay, whoever your opponent is will be like, his aerial skills are not good enough, we'll punish him there. If you think your forward pack is will get by, your opponent's going to be, well, we'll punish you there. On club rugby, that's not always possible. On international, it's definitely possible because everyone you're playing's got the pride of their country at stake. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to make of it. Um, and there's this talk of player rebellion, whatever people want to make of that. I think I I think without the without the whole report, a lot of it becomes speculation. What we think a player said, what we want a player to have said. How much of what we are thinking is people putting their own thoughts behind a player's name. So yeah, I do feel sorry for him. I think he would have had a he would have eventually gotten the hang of it and been able to bring New Zealand rugby to a more modern level.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here because Razor was obviously at the Crusaders for years. A lot of his success, some pundits have put down to the fact that Crusaders always had most of the time anyway, had the best forward pack in Super Rugby during his dominant period. How much of that was factoring into his success? What I did also notice is somebody who used to follow Super Rugby quite closely, not to the extent that I used to. Um, Now with the sort of lack of time and South African teams no longer playing in Super Rugby. Um, One aspect that was interesting to me was is that Razor and his coaching staff would try and evolve every new season. So they'd win the Super Rugby and then they try new things at the beginning of the next season. And it always starts slow and then eventually they just win it. So that's also quite interesting. One other aspect that Razor does that we see also in other high class coaching setups, including the Springbok setup now under Rassie Erasmus, is the desire to bring in new voices, like when Scott Razer Robertson brought in Ronan O'Gara all the way from Ireland to coach. And then that's also an aspect in terms of new ideas, but also a new inclination in terms of legitimately, like when you say a new voice, I'm legitimately meaning like a new like accent and that type of thing. Because the thing is that players will tune the coach out after a while if it's like the same thing over and over again. So I mean that happens with raising kids as well. My brother and his wife experiencing this with their kids, not quite wanting to listen to them, but like will listen to their grandparents and stuff like that because it's just a new person. So I think the reality is that Robertson's obviously a high quality coach and he's obviously in high demand now. I'd love him at the Sharks. Do the Sharks want to go from one New Zealand coach to another New Zealand coach? I actually wanted Ackerman for the same reason of like just a new voice. I wanted to go from a New Zealand coach to South African coach, so we'll see what pans out there. But it's going to be super interesting. Also, what I what I what I read a lot in a lot of articles is that from New Zealand's perspective is that they're referencing Rassie Erasmus a lot. They're saying, "Hey, this guy took over in this time period, and then he won the World Cup. So we need to give the new guy an opportunity to win a World Cup, and then we have to like make the decision now and not too close to that time." Because it used to be the case that they would be like, "Hello, I water will give somebody 4 years." Um, I haven't really been online much of late, Jean. What's the talk of Tony Brown, both in terms of like the message boards and like the articles, reputable articles from reputable journalists? Is there is there a chance we might lose him to New Zealand? I'd be okay with losing him at the end of this World Cup cycle if he wants to go, but I'd be somewhat concerned losing him mid World Cup cycle.
Yeah, look, the idea that Tony Brown's going to go is comes from the fact that um, uh, according to the scuttlebutt and the rumors and what have you, Jamie Joseph is apparently the number one pick um, for the next All Black coach. And certainly his club team has been doing well, and he's definitely I know one particular message I read put it very in a and I feel it's a very New Zealand way to put it. He's got a lot of mana for the team. And Jamie Josephs was successful with obviously with the Japanese national team. And the thought train is that, well, if we get Jamie Joseph in, him and Tony Brown are best friends, uh, coachy besties, and then well, Jamie Joseph will obviously be a luring point to bring Tony Brown back. Tony Brown obviously being a genius attacking player, um, but unfortunately for them, he's gone from downtown Tony Brown to Cape Town Anton de Bruin. Um, and I have it on absolutely no authority that he has a massive love of brandy and sunshine here. So I don't think he's going anywhere. And there's sort of two perspectives to this, right? One is I don't think he's the type of gentleman who will walk out on a commitment. And I think personally he loves the challenge he has at the Springboks, being part of this rich international coaching group where you've got Rassi and Don who are and Stick who are these pure South African people who they represent where the team comes from. And then you've got Flannery and Felix and Tony Brown himself and all these guys, and they sort of it becomes this melting pot of different ideas: European rugby, New Zealand rugby, South African rugby, and that's why you see the Springbok team in essence being very dominant. I don't like to use the word dominating because we're in such an era of rugby that I think any one of the top five teams on their day can beat any one of the four other teams. So, firstly, I don't think he's going to be that type of gentleman. I think he relishes this challenge and the opportunity to be part of the coaching group that might go 3 for 3 at the 2027 Rugby World Cup. And then, secondly, if if I know anything, I know that lawyers think in worst case scenarios. Like when my wife and I got married and we had to do our little anti-nuptial contract, the lawyer sat down and she started with, "No one marries to get divorced, but it's good to be prepared." And I was like, "Wow, we're not even there yet, and already it's like, bam, you're not going to plan for this to happen." So I think any contract Tony Brown would have signed with Saru would have him on gardening leave until the next Rugby World Cup, meaning he's barred from any international coaching. So there's like I said, there's two ways to look at this, and then yeah, I just think that there's not really, and this is all speculating on the basis that Jamie Joseph is going to be the shoe-in, right?
Mhm.
That he's going to send in his CV and they're going to pick him. And I can see why New Zealand would want that. But I mean, if the monkey paw curls, maybe they get Eddie Jones or Warren Gatland or yeah, maybe they get Jake White. We can also contribute to international coaches. It's not all just Rasis here.
Yeah.
Um, but understand, so it's a lot of speculation upon speculation upon speculation. And obviously, Rassi responded in classic Rassi style with his little Twitter video of Tony Brown saying, "I ain't leaving," Wolf of Wall Street style.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't think I think everyone's minds just ran the moment they heard that Scott Robertson had been let go as head coach, and then obviously you sort of follow the logic. So okay, well he's out, so who's next? Well, Jamie Joseph would be the front running candidate. Okay, well
Mm.
Jamie Joseph loves to work with Tony Brown. Ooh, what happens if Tony Brown leaves the Springboks? And everyone forgets that there's this cool little document called a legally binding contract. It's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 we're gonna get Tony Brown and we're gonna beat the Springboks. And it's like, little piece of paper, right? So yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of there's two things. There's interpolation and extrapolation. So there's been a lot of extrapolation as it relates to this. It's worth unpacking though. And then I'm glad you brought up. I don't think I had a chance to speak on any of the podcasts that we do about the the fact that I like the diversity in the Springbok coaching setup. There was some talk on when we defeated Ireland convincingly. Most recently in the November tour in the of Europe. Where the Irish media was saying like, "Wow, you guys have a lot of assistant coaches." Um, and in my sort of professional capacity, every team I've been a part of that's more diverse in terms of backgrounds, in terms of skill set, in terms of which university people went to, what their academic background was, that type of thing. Even what their tertiary background was in terms of practicality. The more diverse it is, the better the team would work. And then on top of it, because I've worked on multiple different projects on multiple different teams, when the team was monolithic, where everybody went to the same university, went to the same studies, sometimes went to the same high school, it got a bit there wasn't new ideas and it sort of stagnated somewhat. So I think that's very smart from Rassi Erasmus, including we didn't even get a chance because the coaching staff of Springboks is so mentioned. We didn't even mention Dion Davids, who had great work at the EP Kings as well. So I'm glad Rassi brought him at on one time. So yeah, there's that aspect as well. So we'll keep a close eye on this. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have heard from the Global Gain Line's premier New Zealand correspondent, all the way from the New Zealand suburb of Centurion, Thembinkosi. But he was predisposed. And if you're watching this and you're wondering, where's Thembinkosi? Where's Lisa B? Where's Sibusiso? Where's Jan de Koning? Where's Angus Opperman? Unfortunately, they were all predisposed this week. Oh, where's Paul, who just joined us last week from the Stormers supporter? Well, I think he's hungover from the Stormers win the other day, something like that. So they'll all be right back, but it's just myself and John holding it down this week. And in respect to that, we'll move on to looking at reviewing the Champions Cup results, and we'll start with the team that's flying the flag the highest for South Africa this season. The Stormers defeated a spirited Leinster Tigers team at Cape Town Stadium. John Dobson says, the Leinster Tiger team might not be household names, but if you look at them individually, a lot of them have a lot of professional caps. So in respect to that, the Stormers started well. Leinster Tigers came back, and then the Stormers sort of pulled away towards the end. Very good attendance again, almost 25,000 people in the stadium. This week, the Stormers are playing the Sharks at Cape Town Stadium, and I hope to attend. Just working a few things out. And it's already past 35,000. So well done to the Stormers for always putting lots of people into the stadium, producing a great atmosphere. Um, yeah, Stormers, unfortunately, despite the fact that they won 3 out of the 4 games in the group stage, still didn't get a home last 16, which is very disappointing because the Harlequins like somehow just woke up from their slumber and then sort of won. The Harlequins result of the round, result of the season thus far, beating La Rochelle in France, Ronan O'Gara, what the hell. So yeah, I don't know how much you caught of this game, Jean. Your thoughts on the Stormers getting another home victory, and yeah, we're only losing 1 game thus far this season.
Yeah, I think the Stormers, obviously that defeat stands out as a bit of a sore thumb. But in all honesty, if we rewind the clock to the week before, the Monday before that match, if you're sitting in the Stormers camp, you're looking at the Harlequins, they're not clicking. It's not a they're not a team who are dominating anyone. They're up 1 week, down the next. Be it in the Prem or in the Premiership Rugby Cup or in the Champions Cup. So they were a very up down team, up down team. Sometimes they click, sometimes they don't. And again, they've got a couple of big names there, particularly Tyrone Green, who obviously was very effective against the Stormers. But if you're sitting in the Stormers coaching coaching box and you're looking at the Harlequins coming up, you're thinking maybe this is an opportunity to rest some players. You know, if we're gonna push the Champions Cup as far as we can, we can't burn these guys in the Champions Cup and in the URC constantly. We've had a
Mm.
good run, and I mean Dobson was clear to the team. He said, "Yeah, we're unbeaten, but this run's going to end, boys. And when it does end, it's not that something magical has come to an end. It's that that's part of the magic is can we keep it going despite losing a match? And I think that's maybe where Dobson rates a bit higher is he's keeping his players their buy-in and their intent very high by saying to them, listen, this is going to happen. It's okay. You know, when it does happen, the magic isn't that it happened and we lost or whatever. It's that we keep going despite that it happened. So I think that's some very good coaching there, and I think it was very unpredictable for them. Very good match against a Leicester. I caught maybe a couple of minutes of worth of highlights, so I didn't see the full game. But yeah, very good on attack. Typically, what we've seen from the Stormers this season. And yeah, I sort of feel for Leicester, you know, having to come down to Cape Town and face a Stormers team post defeat who'd been on a pretty good streak. Any team who drops a streak is just going to have that bit of a, you know, chest out, shoulders back, head forward. We're charging into this. So yeah, I think Storm is definitely the South African team flying the flag the highest at this point. But it's well deserved. They've put in the effort. They've put in the development work. They've built, you can say, 2 strings that are pretty competent. So I think they deserve it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of critique in the message boards or like just like social media nonsense of people saying, "Oh, Dobson shouldn't have rotated for the Harlequins game," but I was fine with it. I would have actually gone with a slightly weaker team. I think. Would I love a South African team maybe next season to go, you know what, screw it. We're gonna go full team home and away, all four all 4 group stages, group games in the Champions Cup, see what happens. And then there's still lots of URC games because I mean it's an 18 season URC regular season. That having been said, you can't go from like a car crash Bulls game at Cape Town Stadium where you're like getting pummeled by the opponents and the pitch at the same time, and then fly to England and expect the players. It's a bad long-term strategy. And the team they put out in Harlequins in England wasn't necessarily that bad. Just Harlequins were clicking. Harlequins were like a shit season
Mhm.
whole season. It's only really Northampton, Bristol Bears, and I forget what's the other team. Oh yeah, and Bath who were like really, really good in England, and only Bath have the depth anyway. So yes, they did that. I think it's we new to this format and stuff like that. We got Irish colleagues on the global game lines who were like saying, "Oh, the format used to be better back in the day. It used to be a home and away, similar to football." I'm okay with this format, but I also understand that it has its ups and downs. Maybe within a South African perspective, I would have thought like it might help us, depending on certain aspects, that maybe we do two away games and then two home games, because right now it's a home and away. So that might assist, because
Yeah,
I think South African teams, if we have two away games, we might actually win one. But right now, with the split of home and away, we're most likely going to drop the away game because it's in Europe. It might have been different for the participants of this tournament when it was only European teams. So the South African teams bring a little more like spice and flavor to it, but there are aspects to that. So, I mean, we look at um, I would have loved to have Gloucestershire in my group, but the
yeah.
Sharks didn't get Gloucestershire. We got I'll check the teams we had. We got Saracens, English teams, and then beat Clermont, but we lost to Toulouse. Always going to lose to Toulouse, and then I forget.
Didn't you get Saracens as well?
Yeah, we beat Saracens in. So we lost to
Yeah.
Toulouse. We beat Saracens in I think. Then we lost away to still Sharks, and then we completely destroyed the Toulouse C team, which we'll get to later. So overall, if we look at the Stormers team. Unfortunately, Chunu had to go off immediately after 5 minutes after getting knocked out. Rodrigo Venter had a solid game. Nathan Fisher had a solid game. JT Sickling scored a try and sold a dummy. Paul de Villiers played the whole game consistently, knocking on the door for Springbok contention. Ben Jason Dixon had a solid game. Evan De Rosa had a solid game. Sasha Fabian Gomez Zulu captain the team, which is not unheralded because he has captained most of the teams he's played for through his career, and he's obviously captained the SA under 20 team. Jonathan Roach had a fantastic game at inside center. Suleiman Hatzenberg, again, very good game. Wandisile Samalani, again, once again playing at fullback, even though he's more comfortable at outside center, but he started to play fullback at the beginning of the season. I know. Scott Berger on the comms said, "Oh, this is his first game at fullback," and I was like, "How many games is Scott watching?" But maybe he got him confused with someone else. Dylan Mart again on loan from Griquas, solid game, played 72 minutes off the bench. Vernon Matongo, Zachary Porthen, Imad Khan scored a try, kicked conversion, and penalty goal. Yeah, so that's basically the Stormers team, and there's going to be in anticipation of next week, looks like Damien Willemse will return to play for the Stormers against the Sharks at Cape Town Stadium. We move now on to the next game of
Well,
this week.
just one thing.
Yeah,
Looking at the upcoming the round of 16 fixtures,
yeah, yeah.
it's you sort of understand why you play at least one game. You play a second string because Stormers are playing Toulon in the round of 16 game. And that's going to be incredibly physical, right? Yeah, we've got the Six Nations break coming up, but during the Six Nations break, I think we still have a couple of derbies to
Mm,
catch up on the South African teams,
mm,
right? So we're not completely resting as much as maybe the rest of Europe.
mhm,
Um, but the fact that on the 3rd of April, Toulon has to meet Stormers and one has to stay and one has to go, that you can understand where the head is at. Because I mean, if we look at a mathematical point of view, if you've got 4 games that you're playing, realistically, if you win 3, you're guaranteed qualification, right? So in my mind, I would also say, listen, we're going to chase 3 games and we're going to give it 100%. One game, I'm not going to risk it because if I win 3 games, if I know I've got 3 games in the bag, right? If I can get 3 games in the bag and I lose one, I'm not saying the Stormers went out to lose. I'm saying I'm being realistic. If I lose one game, I'm still qualified to go through to the next round. And from the knockouts, it's anyway live or die, right? So you're going to be risking things every game. So I understand where Dobson's coming from, and I understand why they couldn't go full team for everything because at the end of the day, they're trying to manage both the championship expectation that we have to commit to the championship, and they want to bring the URC back to Cape Town.
Yeah,
So
I wasn't
it's
surprised at all. Yeah.
so I think for most rugby fans, there's an understanding. There's some people who are upset because they think that, oh, maybe we must do one or the other. We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Mm.
I think we are getting closer.
Yeah, maybe a bit more depth. I understood when they lost the Harlequins. I was like, look, it happens. Just go back to Cape Town, beat the Leinster Tigers. But then I thought, look, they're definitely going to qualify. I thought they have a I thought they had a better chance to get, statistically, I thought they had a better chance to get a home last 16. And being a resident of City of Cape Town, I don't know what the prices of the tickets would have been, but I've not watched, I've only watched URC games, Currie Cup games. I watched the Super Rugby game years ago, like so long ago. Wendell Sailor was playing for Waratahs. Um, but so I've not watched any Heineken what Champions Cup game, Investec Champions Cup games. I'll give the sponsor one shout out because this is an African company. We try not to give any free shout outs here. And then I thought, okay, look, Stormers, to the best of my knowledge, Stormers have not had a home quarter, but a home last 16 in this tournament in the Champions Cup. They might have. I need to double check the stats and stuff, but this would be my first one. But then I realized when all the results are done, it's like, oh, they didn't get a home quarter, quarterfinal. Now they have to go away. So that disappointed me. So I mean, Stormers won 3 games, and they got to the knockout, but they're playing away. Bulls won 1 game. They got to the knockout and they're playing away to Glasgow, which is going to be a flippin' close game, by the way. The Bulls got a nice draw. I mean, there's worse places to go than Glasgow, and Bulls have really pushed Glasgow before, right? The Sharks won 2 games. I don't think they got any losing bonus points and stuff. They got 4 try winning bonus points, but that losing bonus points within a thing. So the Sharks got and the Sharks dropped to the Challenge Cup.
Challenge Cup. Yeah.
Lions just drew and they fell out of the Challenge Cup entirely. Unfortunately, because of circumstances as well. Cheetahs weren't that competitive in Champions Cup either. So it's sometimes the luck of the draw in terms of your group as well. But we'll unpack that. I'm glad we're looking at the knockout stage as well. Yeah. So the other result in the Champions Cup is the Bulls went away to Section Power and they won uh, by two
Yes.
points. Jean, Friday night fixture, and you got it done. Here we go.
Yeah, very very strange feeling for us Bulls fans to be celebrating a win. But yeah, I caught some of the game Friday night. We didn't have a particularly good Friday night. Our power went out and it sort of came back and then it went out again. Um, so I just rewatched the whole game Saturday morning, because January is 3 years long. So payday is still at least 2 years away. So there was nothing to do except be at home. But yeah, I think there's a couple of things that stand out to me from the Bulls' performance that I noticed. One, the Bulls were very attentive to the referee. Both Marcel van Staden, not Marcel van Staden, Marcel Coetzee and Ruan Nortje, when they were on the field, if the referee was giving an offside call, right, they would physically be looking up and down the line, and they would shout at players to get back and stay onside, not go offside. So it's a very small detail that, but it shows that attentiveness is going up. That there's an attention to detail that we shouldn't give away soft penalties, and this was all every time in the 22, right? And I was actually kind of surprised by the how the number of offsides dropped in terms of the Bulls giving away offside penalties. Then the other thing that stood out was simply um, the um, the attacking play was a bit slower, right? Meaning it's a bit easier to read at times, but we didn't have that many knock-ons. So we just slowed it down a bit, and I think there's room there for Handré Pollard, maybe not Willie Leroux, but for Handré Pollard to sort of pick up his old form again, because he was very good on defense. He's not scared of putting in a big hit. but on attack, he's perhaps not the most flashy guy. And I think with Ackerman over time, we might get to see flashes of that 2019 Handré Pollard again. And the same Handré Pollard, who wouldn't be scared to run a line and swing the ball post tackle or things like that. So it was nice to see that. Um, there was also sort of a pod movement where 2 to 3 big forwards would rush out, make a hard hit before the ball carrier could really build up a head of steam. And not really a rush defense because it's not the whole line rushing up. It was typically either 2 players, 3 players, or 4 players. But the most I saw were 2 player and 3 player combos. And they were just like almost like a little wolf pack, just shooting ahead of the main defensive line and just sort of stopping the ball player and not allowing him to build momentum. So that also, I think, is the reason the score is a lot better. And then obviously we went into halftime trailing a bit, and I think the final thing perhaps is the fact that the Bulls players kept belief that once they had that lead, they just kept the belief, they kept it going. Um, and I think it was big for them. And there was actually a photo of Ackerman and the team. It was sort of a low angle photo looking up of Ackerman, and he was speaking to the team post when you could see all the big smiles and everything. But Marcel Coetzee was looking at him, and you could see he was smiling at his coach, who was smiling, and you could almost in the photo feel the belief there that okay, we've proven this works. We get you and you get us, and this is now, yeah, we might not win the next game and it might not be perfect, but at least everyone now knows we can do this. So I think from here the trajectory is going to go up, and it's not going to be all wins. We're not now going to turn the season around, win the Champions Cup, win the URC, and then send the Bulls team to 2027. But I do think it's a turning point, and I sort of used the analogy on a rugby group where I posted, where I said if turning a rugby team around is like turning an oil tanker 180 degrees, you're going to be turning a long time before 180 degrees is even within your line of sight. And I think right now the Bulls we are still turning, but we can see 180 degrees. And we now know that it's possible to get there. Because for the past couple of weeks, we've just been turning, and we're not seeing anything. And now we see the goal, we see where we're going, and we can get there. The last thing I'm going to say is I would really love for Ackerman to maybe just think about it, but maybe late in the game put Pollard at 15, which I think he was covering the backfield pretty well, and he was countering Pau's deep kicks pretty well. Maybe pull him into the backfield and get Keegan Johannes to run at 10. They don't have to interlink, but Pollard's got that massive boot, and he's good at the kicking game. If he sees you're trying to jerk his chain, he's just going to catch the ball and run, and that's fine. That's fine. Then okay, well, there's no point kicking further, right? So I think maybe let's try with that. I don't know, Ackerman, if you listen to this, please comment. It would be nice if you could comment. Even if you say, John, it's a bad idea. You can use the Afrikaans word for bad. It's fine. But yeah, I'm just happy the Bulls won.
Yeah, and then now you got a away game in April against Glasgow to look forward to, which I still feel strongly that's going to be a competitive game. You said you might not win the next game, but you're playing Edinburgh in Scotland, so I think you're a good shot. Standout players, by the way, Section Power played a solid team. They didn't rotate that much. Standout players that you might know in the team: Luke Whitelock, the lesser known Whitelock brother. Cohen to Pilato had a good game at 8. Um, at Jack Maddox, Australian, if I'm correct. And then obviously Julian Montoya off the bench at hooker, and is Facundo Isa, another Argentinian standout. Players, shout out from the Bulls team. Friend of the program, Philo Gomede, who we shouted out in episode 1 of this program. Fantastic, started and got a try. Excellent long pass from Aka van der Merwe to Philo Gomede for that try, by the way. Jan-Hendrik Wessels playing the full game. Anything else? Interesting, yeah. Keegan Johannes
Yeah,
on the bench, no.
Cheswell
Oh,
Yuster had a
oh yeah.
fantastic game. And sorry, this is something I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah.
The difference in chase pressure
Mm,
between having Cheswell Yuster and Kurtley Arendse on the field versus the previous week, where we
mm,
maybe properly chased one or two kicks. This
mm,
week, every time Powell was when their guy catches the ball, he's getting tackled, he's getting tackled, he's getting tackled the whole time. And it's if you look at who's tackling them, it's not Andre Pollard at 100 and something kgs. It's Kurtley Arendse, it's Cheswell Yuster, but they've got the speed to get there. And I think that's what really sort of robbed Poe of saying, okay, well, the Bulls have kicked it. Everything's in disarray. Let's counterattack. No, you can't counterattack because you've got two Cape Town speedsters just cutting in on you, and there's nowhere to go. You catching the ball, they're on you, they're cutting your knees. And then if I think two or three times they manage to get out of the tackle, then the Bulls defensive line have set up. So now you're carrying into contact and you're in your own
mm,
22. So I think that made a huge difference. And it's definitely going to be something that Ackerman will work on with the other players as they rotate through wing, is to say, listen, if there's a kick going up, we're chasing for two things. One, to contest, two, to take the player out. If he catches the ball, if you see your slow your roll just at half a second. Let him catch it, and as he gets the ball, make him and the grass one.
mm. Yeah, you got to work on your timing. So they started Chisel Joster. Just interestingly, of the um of the three players and the whole squad of under 20s who won the World Cup recently, the three players that got invited into Springbok camp were Bato Klokani, the explosive blindside flank, Hashim Peed, the scrum half from the Lions that makes excellent impact off the bench, and obviously Chisel Jost. Chisel Jost is the one who's getting the most game time. Only reason why he was out the team, according to Ackerman, is because he recently had an injury. So he was out with concussion, the same as Kurtley Arendse, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, excellent. Sort of first time I've seen de Klerk play at outside center, and then de Klerk sort of skinned two players, pass the ball off to Chisholm Joster, then kick the ball. If you haven't seen this try, kick the ball ahead, and then completely outstrip the power player for pace and scored an excellent try. So well done to him. All right, so now we move on to the Sharks, who hosted the Clermont C team and duly swept them aside, as I predicted last week. Workman-like performance for the most part, but towards the end of the last 20 minutes, when the French team decided to no longer defend, the Sharks put some ran up the score on the scoreboard. Interestingly enough, Lorenzo Julius, who can play inside and outside center, more known as an outside center. I've seen him play inside center for the under 20s, as well as he really broke into the Sharks team. He actually made his Shark debut in Currie Cup game against the Lions in not the last Currie Cup, the Currie Cup before that at inside center, where the Sharks had lost 4 games that season, but it was an extended regular season in the Currie Cup, and then they drafted in Bato Kakani, who's now moved on to the Lions, and Lorenzo Julius, as well as Lily Bester, a lot of young guys, and that's when he broke onto the consciousness of a lot of Sharks fans, although some of us have been sort of watching him in the under 20s and that type of thing. And then that's when Batu Klokani also like burst onto the scene for mostly like not for South African fans, but in generally like for Sharks fans because he also played quite well. So especially the fact that he can run, Lorenzo Julius can run through contact. Even though they're tackling him, he just keeps moving his legs, and then majority of the time he actually just breaks through. So uh, good game from him. There's a fantastic video on the Sharks Instagram page where that season the Sharks went on to win the Currie Cup, and in the celebration, Lorenzo Julius asks Currie Cup coach, who's now the senior coach, JP Peterson. JP Peterson, by the way, one of my all-time favorite Springboks and Sharks players. Um, he asked JP Peterson, "Hey coach, how old are you when you won your first Currie Cup?" And then JP Peterson says, "Oh, I think I was 23." And then Jaden was 20 at the time. So it's like, "Oh, coach, I got one on you because I won my first Currie Cup when I was younger than you did." And then JP Peterson immediately says, "Oh, by the way, I won my first World Cup at 20." And then Julie's face sort of like changes.
Uh,
It's just sort of like the coach reminding you, like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you in place." And then the comment section of that Instagram video is always fantastic because everybody, including myself, is like, "Yeah, get him, JP." Sometimes you have to humble the young players. But yeah, back to the game. Solid performance from most of the players who started. Apelele Fassi was like, wow, he was on fire. Great to see friend of the program PK Sobatle get a try. He could have passed, but then he ran through contact, which was fantastic. Maleu Tutuka didn't get a try, but put in a great performance again. Matt Romeo, another World Cup junior World Cup winning player at open side flank. Ahead of Siya Kolisi in this game. He got man of the match. And what was interesting is that we were under the impression that the Sharks were going to go full Springbok for this game. Why? Because after losing two Sale Sharks, uh, the Sharks Instagram page then posted a video of the team training in on the Monday, and all the red shirts, generally the red shirt players are the ones that are going to start, were like your Springboks, your Oxenchair, um, um, your Siya Kolisi, Vincent Duko was there, that type of thing. So we thought we were going to go full Springbok, but instead they actually played a variation of like a A, B, and C team, and with the young players mixed in as well. And I think they knew that. I mean, we spoke about this last week on the podcast that because Clermont legitimately had no points, so they were coming down to Cape to Durban to play this game, which that nothing to play for. So they legitimately sent, and even you said that the French coach said that they were coming down to Durban for business reasons. So they said a mostly CB team, but I will say though they really put up a fight at the start. What's also interesting is that in the second half the game had to go into uncontested scrums, so it would have been interesting to see how the game had panned out if it hadn't gone to that, because Clermont wasn't necessarily poor in that respect. Even though the Sharks were starting decorated Springbok Oxen Chair, Bogi Benambi was playing. Andrew Jacobs seems to be playing ahead of Vincent Koch at the moment. Um, yeah, so now the Sharks have to play in the next. They drop down to the Champions Cup, and they have to play Connacht and Galway. And we've already lost the Connacht and Galway earlier this season. So in April, it might be an opportunity to get some revenge on Caelan Scully and the rest of the Irish guys on the Interpro show. Quick note: if you're watching this and you're South African, or you're just a fan of the program, like, subscribe, click the notification bell. But also remember that we're recording this week. We generally record on Mondays, but we're recording this week on a Tuesday. And on Tuesday night, the Global Game Lines records three podcasts: a French podcast, an Irish podcast, and a South African podcast. So all three podcasts are coming out at the same time this evening, right? If we lose to those podcasts, I'm going to be really upset. Okay. So if if we get less views and less likes than the French podcast and the Irish podcast, and if Tony Brown leaves, it's on you. So just fair warning. Like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell, share on the audio platforms as well. I personally use Player FM audio platform. I don't use some of the more popular ones. Why? Because the Player FM audio platform allows me to download podcasts directly. And for somebody who camps as much as I do, you're not in places with signal all the time. So you want to necessarily listen to a podcast while you're buying as well. So that's just one other aspect. So we're moving on now to the Challenge Cup. And unfortunately, of the many, many Lions supporters we've had on the podcast, none of them made it here this evening. Um,
just
and
like the team couldn't make it to the knockouts.
precisely. So the Lions actually drew a game very artistically. Sibusiso, I don't know how he feels about it. He'll tell us next week because it's a weird week for him because where was that game, by the way? Was that game on the Saturday or the Sunday?
No, no, I think it was a Sunday.
Can't seem to find it. Yeah, 2020. Ah, it was the Saturday. They went to Perpignan and they drew. That means they're out of European competitions entirely. They're going to focus on the URC. Um, Sibusiso's Lions who drew on the same day when his Arsenal team drew. And if you're wondering why Sibusiso's not here, it's because Arsenal are playing Inter Milan. And then on Sunday, Arsenal play my team, False Hope FC, Manchester United. So Sibusiso owes me a thank you. He still hasn't sent me a thank you note because we took points of Man City. Arsenal are going for the league. So the Lions played a somewhat rotated team. They started again with a very good flank combo of Renzo Duplessis at open side and Bato Kani, who played the whole game at blind side. Hashim Pete started this game, so that must make most of the Lions supporters really stoked. What's also interesting is the Henko van Wyk, I keep saying Venter, started at inside center when he's generally known as an outside center, and he had a solid game. New recruits to the Lions, Dion Keita from the Sharks, and formerly from Griquas, and Angela Davids, who they got from the Stormers. They started on the wing. Overall, it was a competitive game. Perpignan didn't rotate as much as you might think. Perpignan took the lead. Lions went into the lead quite well. Perpignan came back, and then Lions went to the lead again. And towards the last 20 minutes, Perpignan scored, and it was quite tight towards the end. Um, Overall, from a Lions perspective, I mean, we're not Lions fans. I think considering their depth and ability, and sort of injury issues here and there, they acclimatize themselves reasonably well in this tournament. But yeah, I'm gonna be looking for them to yeah, now really show what they have in the URC, considering they only have that tournament to focus on. Again, shout out to Bronson Mills, who came on for some reason with only 4 minutes left. Player to watch, excellent young inside center. Um, Jean, how much of this did you catch?
I didn't catch I didn't catch any of this match, but I think the systemic issues of the Lions and I don't know I don't know this needs to be studied by someone with a much bigger brain than mine. But the Lions seem to have this affinity for finding real talent, developing the talent, and then not being able to hold on to it. And then I think also we need to recognize that I think maybe their coaching ticket is operating at its ceiling. In terms of where the coaching ticket can take the Lions in terms of their achievements in the URC and their achievements in the Challenge or Champions Cup. And I mean, we discussed this way, way, way back in the beginning. And it's sort of been a recurring theme throughout to say that, the Lions administration is a bit of a mystery. We're not sure how things work there. One thing I can tell you is I don't think there's more that the coaching setup that currently is at the Lions, it doesn't feel like they can get more out of this team. I feel like it just feels like this team has reached the ceiling of its performance and its capabilities in its current form. And I'm not pointing at the players when I say that. I'm pointing at the coaching setup because at times it's really hard to see where the strategy is. And a couple of weeks ago, I was saying the same thing about the Bulls. I was saying there's no defensive strategy. It's just tackle, 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 tackle. The problem is you get tired. You can't keep tackling, right? You need to tackle with a plan to say, listen, we're going to take this many hits, and then uh, Akker, you're going to start lurking behind, and you're going to wait for that perfect opportunity. Well, I mean, Akker doesn't have to because we've got superstar Jandre Rudolph now at the Bulls having the season of his life. Shout out to him. Jandre, if you listen, comment your favorite brandy. The whole of Bulls owe you one. But anyway, um, it just feels like this coaching setup, either someone needs to come in or they need to do some consulting or something because it doesn't feel like they need to strap a turbo to this because there's a good team and there's a good culture. You can see that there's a good culture. and a good team is there, but they just can't seem to knock on the door of going to the next level.
So you feel like, yeah, they're not playing up to their potential. Quick note on Perpignan. Starting for them at tight head prop, Nemo Rulofse, who recently signed for the Sharks. I do not know if that means he's joining us at the end of the season or immediately. Well, I'll have to look into that. I saw the ad and I thought it was immediate, but I see he did start for Perpignan. Solo Tuolagi, absolute monster of a dude. French international, played 52 minutes. The French slash Polynesian version of JJ van der Mech. And then Jamie Ritchie, who joined Perpignan, but almost didn't because they almost got relegated last season from the French for 14. So there was a lot of debate as to if he was going to go or not. And then the final game on Sunday, the last game of this week for any team really, throughout the Sunday, was the Racing 92 hosting um, the Free State Cheetahs in their final match. This one did not get cancelled due to weather, and the Free State Cheetahs did reasonably well. I find it so weird that Daniel Martin has been thought of in such high esteem for such a long time, and he's stuck with the Cheetahs all these years. Open side flank Daniel Martin. Overall, Cheetahs put up a fight in this game. I mean, they only had Pride to play for, and they played relatively well. Munir Hatzenberg played the entire game. James Verratti-Arm, uh, all the way out in South Africa now, having played for Western Force. Uh, Cameron Dawson, who used to was on loan earlier this season at the Sharks, played reasonably well. Um, yeah, um, Cheetahs I could see be very competitive in the SA Cup, and we'll see how things pan out in the SA Cup. I would like the Sharks to actually compete as well in the SA Cup. Um, there was a Cheetahs captain who's unfortunately unavailable generally. Ukisela, I believe. There's under Du Plessis recently joined the Cheetahs from the Lions, and then Jacob van der Walt who joined the Cheetahs from um the Bulls more recently. Jacob van der Walt, Scottish international, by the way, due to his time. I can't remember if it was Glasgow or Edinburgh. Let us know in the comments. So those are the Cheetahs results. Cheetahs, we look forward to seeing you guys in the SA Cup. Now we look forward to previewing some matches. We only have 3 matches to preview. On Friday night, another away Friday night fixture. A quick turnaround for you, Jean. You take on Edinburgh in Scotland. Kicks off at 9:45 South African time. We're not doing predictions because it's only Tuesday, so because we don't have the teams. But what are your early thoughts?
Uh, I think if the Bulls can keep the momentum going, it'd be great. If I'm Ackerman, I'm looking at this. If I'm looking at this game, I'd say let's not try to overplay our hand. It's the backside of winter there. They're not completely out of the cold, and you don't know what the wind is going to do. So let's not try to be too fancy and box kick too much. Read the game, read the wind. If the opportunity presents itself, yes, go on attack. But I would be prepping my forwards to say, listen, let's do some route one carrying, force them into the scrums, force them into the mauls. You get a penalty, you take the maul. If there's a knock on, you take the scrum. Get the legs tired early, and then obviously it will open up. Because I just don't think Edinburgh have the forward firepower to match us for 80 minutes. Um, and then yeah, it just becomes a forward based game. If we can use our forwards effectively, I think we should be able to match Edinburgh. Um, but then again, we've seen what can happen with the winds up north. It's definitely something that I think South African teams have to adapt to, and I've personally seen the Bulls struggle with that. Um, where one half they were kicking with the wind and and the contestables were going into 50-22s, and the next half they were kicking against the wind and the contestables were going behind the scrum half. So you have to it's a much more heads up environment. You need to know where you're playing and what you're playing. So read the game, read the moment. One thing I desperately wish for the Bulls is that we could get a nine who has a bit of pace about him and a bit of seriousness about him. It feels to me, I don't want to come off as arrogant or cocky or whatever, but at times it does feel to me like the two nines that we consistently play are very slow with service. They're taking their time. When they get there and the ball's not presentable, they're sort of digging it out, buying time. If the ball's presentable, let's go. Get it to the next ball carrier. Get on the front foot. That's how you get a defense to collapse in. And I've said it again. The thing that will take any nine in the world from being good to great. If you look at DuPont, if you look at Fuff, if you look at um, uh, Gibson Park, if you look at Smith from New Zealand, they know where they're going to pass before they get to the ruck. They know when they get to the ruck, they've already decided who's receiving the ball. It's literally hands on out. The only time they slow down is to box kick. And I think that's sort of where the Bulls, you've got this massive forward pack who will carry themselves into dust for you. Use that. One guy, one guy, one guy, because it's going to take two people to stop him. After three or four carries, that defense is collapsing in. The back line is going to have a field day spreading the ball out wide. So that's how I would approach the game, but I'm not Ackerman. Ackerman will point out any critiques in the comments below, so please keep an eye out.
And at the exact same time on the exact same day, Ospreys host the Lions. And this is an interesting game because Ospreys pretty much got the news in the last few days that they are going to have to close down. It's all but decided unless some strange stuff happens. So how is that affecting guys like Dan Kasende and so on and so forth in terms of their mindset and their emotions and stuff? Would it actually galvanize them to actually take on the Lions? Lions are somewhat underdogs for this game because it's away from home. But yeah, obviously Ofo is the African game. But what I will say is both teams like to throw the ball around, so it should be quite entertaining, much like the Sharks Clermont game this past weekend. And speaking of the Sharks, they traveled down to Cape Town from Durban, the short trip, short flight. So that means they'll probably leave quite Durban quite late. And they take on the Stormers at 7:30 in the evening on Saturday night, prime time. Stormers in good form. They will have Kobus Reinach back. They will have uh, uh, Willemse back. They will have Damien Willemse back. The Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu set to start. Ben Jason Dixon. Um, all the managers. If Paul de Villiers is starting, unfortunately, uh, Johan Ackerman's son, Rowan Ackerman, has been playing quite well for the Stormers since he arrived from his sojourn in England. He's unfortunately injured, so I suspect this will be quite the arm wrestle. Um, do I hope the Sharks win? Sure. Do I hope I'm going to be there? It's undecided yet. We'll work that out. It's Tuesday now. The game's on Saturday. We'll figure it out between now and then. Um,
We're
yeah,
waiting for payday.
exactly.
But if you're the Stormers
Yeah,
or the Bulls or the Sharks or the
yeah,
Lions or
yeah.
any other club that we've spoken about, um, and you want to give us some comp tickets, we
Yeah.
definitely won't say no. Please remember, if you are an overseas club, to include visa expenses, flights, hotels. We will pay for our own meals. We
Yeah,
we
exactly. We'll
we
meet you
don't
halfway.
want everything in life.
Yeah.
We just want most of it.
Speaking of which, our colleague Hugh Griffin hosted the generally the host of the URC Rewind and the Champions Cup Rewind. He went to a game this weekend. It was Northampton versus Scarlets, and it was a Champions Cup game, and he he came home with quite a few spills, like 3 bags of biltong, and then he ate it during the Champions Cup rewind, and it was torture. It's like, oh my God! So I'm just gonna have this delicious watermelon during the podcast as a sort of I hope you're watching you. I don't think you guys get this in England.
Yeah, they
So
also don't get sunshine. So
yeah,
nice having
and speaking.
sunshine.
You spoke about wind that the Bulls might experience at Edinburgh this Friday night. It's been pumping windy in Cape Town these last few days. So I wonder how that's going to affect the game on Saturday. I hope it maybe calms down. The stadium is quite a bowl. It's been so windy that there was a 6 o'clock hike that I was set to attend tomorrow evening, and it's been cancelled because the wind is 40 kilometers an hour. So I got probably will still. I think we'll still go to Muizenberg and run, but we won't be hiking up that hiking trail. So yeah, Jean, your final thoughts on how this game might pan out at Cape Town?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. The Sharks, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to outmaneuver the Stormers. The Stormers definitely seem to be the not only the informed team, but the settled and balanced team of the SA teams. Like everyone's comfortable, they know their job, they know what's expected of them. Whereas I think for the Sharks and the Bulls are very much in a phase of we're building, we're settling, everyone's sort of resettling. JP Peterson definitely being an improvement coaching wise, at least, or seems to be, and in camp seems to be an improvement. Um, and I'm hoping for all the money that the Sharks have, or at least all the money they're saving on Sia Kolisi, going back to Stormers next season, that they do get in some decent assistant coaches. Because again, as we highlighted multiple times in the past, that's the real area where SA clubs are also lacking in depth. Sharks Stormers, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with the Stormers on this one. I don't think the Sharks, the fact that the Stormers can run out a 9-10-15 combo of Kobus Reinach, Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu, and Damian Willemse is the Sharks don't have much. They can't compete with that. They've got their best nine is Jaden Hendrickson, Grant Williams
Uh,
actually. So
Jordan.
they can compete at nine.
Mm.
I wouldn't say they can compete at 10. Siam Suku would be my best bet for their 10, but then 15 is Apalele Fasi. So you're two out of three at best.
Yeah.
That
It's
you're
going to be
backing up.
interesting because they're going to draft in like Hooker and Estes, but they're very much underdogs because of the Stormers' form and consistency and stuff. So whatever happens, I mean, they've already put 35,000. They already sold 35,000 tickets. So people want to see this game, and they also want the Sharks to pick all their Springboks. Unfortunately, still no Eben Etzebeth. Hopefully, we'll get Eben Etzebeth back after the Six Nations, so we can beat Connacht in Galway in the Challenge Cup. But yeah, people want to see. It's also an opportunity to see your Springboks for more reasonable ticket prices. That's another
Yeah.
aspect. There's going to be a lot of Springboks on the field that day. Also, the pitch is apparently a bit more spongy, and it's this is their last home game for a while, and this is a series of games. So Sharks are underdogs for both these games. They're going to play the Stormers this weekend, and then play the Stormers in Durban the next weekend. But whatever happens, it's going to be quite an arm wrestle. So you want to see stuff like this because Stormers are clear favorites, but it's must see TV. It's gonna if whoever's not at the stadium is going to be watching. So yeah, really looking forward to it. That
If
brings us, yeah, go ahead.
if anything,
Mhm.
I would say there's a bigger chance of the Sharks winning the second game
Mm,
and not the first.
mm,
Um, I wouldn't say a runaway, but I've got a feeling of like maybe a 3 to 7 point victory for the Sharks in the second game,
mm,
just because they'll be more familiar. And the fact that it's back to back, you're playing the same team twice in a row, right? The Stormers sitting at the top of the log, they're sitting very pretty up there, in the URC log. It could be another case of Dobson going, well, rotation isn't the enemy, right?
mm,
And if the Stormers lose with a losing bonus point, they I think their top spot will still remain comfortably, but it buys you longevity in the competition. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in reality, whether or not my thoughts are in any way accurate. I'm sure Dobson will also point out any critiques in the comments.
Exactly. So yeah, after these two games, both teams go on a bit of a break, so about a 3 week, and then into the Six Nations, and then as you stated earlier, there is one full round of Six Nations within the URC, but there's also a singular round where South African teams just play each other, sort of like a catch-up game. So Wooly, you probably rotate if there's injuries and stuff like that. And it's kind of sucky that we're playing on the much harder South Africa Cape Town Stadium pitch. Interestingly enough, a concert was supposed to take place on the 11th of February at Cape Town Stadium that I was set to go to, and that's also been cancelled. So because the headliner had to pull out, so that might help in terms of the pitch after the Six Nations as well to get it more to the standard that Dobson understandably wants to see. Yeah. As it relates, so what's also interesting is that Siamasuku had a struggling game against Sale, but had a slightly better game this past weekend in Clermont. So we'll see what type of impact he can make off the bench. But yeah, the overall vibe of the Sharks camp is that they need to salvage the rest of the season. And besides, JP Peterson's just keeping the seat warm for Scott Robertson.
Or
You
Eddie
heard it here
Jones.
first. I can only hope. Until next week, from myself, Jean, as we say every week, in Rassi, we trust.